Hi. Yeah. Okay. No.
Okay, so should we get started? Okay, I will open the Geauga County ADP Board. This is an emergency meeting. It is April 13th, Thursday, 2023. It's 12 noon. We have one item on the agenda, and that's CrowdStrike critical threat escalation on water resource exchange server. So just to give everybody kind of a baseline of where we are. Yeah, I believe it's on. Are you recording?
Yeah, right.
Just to give everybody a baseline of where we are, I kind of summarized the sequence of events as we know them. So this is going to be subject to what we all believe occurred. So on Wednesday, April 12, 2023, in the early morning hours, we estimate around 4 a.m., a product called CrowdStrike Falcon, which is a service, began noticing possible nefarious scripts and command line activity on a critical water resource server. CrowdStrike Falcon is an endpoint cybersecurity product installed on all servers and workstations touching the county's network by ADP. Shortly before 8 a.m., ADP staff began receiving a series of serious high priority alerts through ADP Cybersecurity Center from CrowdStrike, indicating what appeared to be a significant and persistent threat attack on this water resource server. CrowdStrike observed what appeared to be nefarious activity attempting to access and control the server. Given the persistent nature of the attack, CrowdStrike elevated the incident to critical and automatically blocked its execution, isolated the server's communication, and put in motion a series of procedures and instructions for ADP to further isolate and protect the county's network infrastructure. ADP personnel immediately notified water resources of the attack, blocked all inbound water resource domain traffic, removed water resources from all shared ISP switches, and began a deep scan of all county systems to ensure that the county's environment under ADP control was secure and unaffected. It appears that the water resource server in question is an end-of-life, end-of-support server operating Microsoft Exchange for water resources, which is not properly service patched by water resources. This vulnerability likely permitted the exploitation of an outside actor to externally penetrate the server through Exchange and attempt to run a series of tasks or commands through PowerShell scripting. The server was ultimately powered off by water resources staff, preventing any further analysis by ADP or CrowdStrike. As of now, there is no indication that the attack bridged beyond water resources, and they remain offline awaiting remediation. CrowdStrike and ADP were successful in containing the attack with no disruption to other county services or systems under ADP control. Due to the fact that the penetrated service was not under the control or oversight of ADP, an emergency meeting of the ADP board was called for today at noon in this office to discuss the issue. That's where we are. So with that, I guess, who is going to speak for water resources so we can determine what we know?
Well, I mean, I've had no email access. I hadn't seen anything. I got an email at 8 o'clock yesterday, and shortly thereafter we were shut down. No phone calls or anything. So I don't know, because we haven't got any report. I have.
Steve, it's your server. So
Yeah, I know.
it's your server. Water Resources is running it. I would expect Water Resources to come to this meeting and explain to us what's going on. So that's.
How can I get in the system when everything's shut down? How can I access?
I mean, are you an IT guy?
No, I'm not an IT.
Mike's here. What's going on?
Mike's here.
It's your server, Mike. What's going on?
It's our server. The CrowdStrike, as you all know, is a very good product. When it sees an attack, it will go in and shut that server off from the network or from any other access. It can only access it. End of immediate threat. CrowdStrike runs 24/7 on every machine. So that threat ended at that point until remediation could take place. I made many attempts to Frank, to ADP, to try to figure out how to remediate the problem. They would not answer. We have that.
Boy, I didn't
ADP
answer your phone calls. Did we not communicate by email yesterday throughout the day?
after how many phone calls?
3 phone calls over the course of an hour. Did I then respond via email?
You're wrong, but go ahead.
Wait.
And anyway,
Nick, hang on, Mike. Nick, we emailed.
After a couple phone calls to your office, once we went through my cell phone, my personal cell phone.
Because we had to get off of private email onto private email versus the county.
Because we didn't have any access to our.
Correct. And then we emailed back and forth.
So.
Correct.
through a Gmail
and
account.
in our calls, I asked your guy sitting at ADP, helped us to talk to you. You guys were busy. They said to call back in a couple minutes. I called back. I was told by your help desk, call Frank at this extension. I cannot give you any more information. That's
a
when the phone
summation
call,
of the guy's responsibilities.
that's when the phone call started. We could not get anything from you guys.
Via phone, but not via email.
We didn't have an email till we established private emails.
Right, and then you.
But you
got
could have
the
answered the
response.
phone, right?
This isn't about whether or not I could have answered the phone. This is about whether or not we communicated.
How do we get help? If
Did
you
we
don't
not
answer the
communicate
phone.
via email?
Email was shut down.
Well, it was, the server infected is your email exchange.
Right.
So it's like trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? I mean, you're not gonna get email when the server that is infected is in fact the item that's being.
Exactly.
Why are you guys running an Exchange server?
We have, ever since we have been in operation.
Okay, but why haven't you converted to Microsoft 365?
I was instructed not to by the county, by Jerry.
Okay, when was that?
That was during our mediation process.
Okay, so if you had migrated to Microsoft 365, would you be having this problem right now?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I guarantee you wouldn't. You don't need to have a server. How do you infect a server that doesn't exist? Exchange is a hard server.
So you guys opened a PO for Microsoft 365, the migration? When did that process start?
I don't know exactly. We started it before, but once I guess mediation started, we started.
Yeah, but I guess I'm confused. What in mediation had anything to do with running email?
I would love to talk about that, but we're under a gag order. Everybody signed
We're not.
mediation.
What-
Is there confidentiality? We can't talk about what happened.
I'm not
Do you
asking
have
what we
the-
talked about in mediation. I
You
said,
just did. You
what
said-
what is part of the lawsuit you filed had anything to do with email for Water Resource?
Well, I think there was, from what I remember, there was some back and forth as to the direction of what the future would be with Water Resources interacting with ADP, whether it was going to be a full under the umbrella or maybe some type of other.
Exactly. But the lawsuit itself.
Yeah.
There was no mention of Water Resource in the lawsuit.
Not in the lawsuit, but in mediation.
Well, but again, being under a gag order, you're taking action that's resulting in mediation that you're gagged from to stop people from migrating from Exchange to the cloud.
No,
Well,
Do you have
it was
email?
not, it was to go from the county's, the
No,
water
it wasn't.
resources system to the county's 365.
There is no such thing as the county's 365.
You have one account.
We actually have multiple.
You can spin off any 365 system
That's
to an
not the way it
independent.
was
So listen,
explained to us by
so-
your ADP.
So I guess my question is, and obviously I don't know a whole lot about this issue, as I just heard about it very late yesterday. But, it was always, and, I know we've had this emergency meeting that we're able to pull together in less than 24 hours, but, we sent a letter a couple weeks back requesting to be on the agenda to come talk about this. And I think one of those things was to, talk about starting that process of migrating to 365, bringing Water Resources under the umbrella, So.
Tim,
the timing-
that wasn't in Jerry's letter. I've got this email.
Well, no, the letter,
I've got an email from February 2nd. Good morning, Jared. I'm still waiting on a PO to send you guys so that we can order licenses and get moving on this. Mike, where are we at in the process of obtaining a PO? Corey, this is to migrate to 365. The migration was ready to go on February 2nd. Good afternoon, Jared and Corey. Jerry Morgan, County Administrator, has told Stephen and myself not to move forward with the 0365 conversion within the county system until the mediation between the BOCC and ADP is finalized. Therefore, at this time, even though the PO is in place, we are not able to work on the implementation. Feel free to go ahead and move forward with other agencies you have in mind. So
are we still migrating has everyone been migrated in the entire county?
There's like one or two departments that are in
That have
process.
not done it yet. So we're in the process of doing it.
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
we're
It would have been
upwards of
done.
80%.
but this would have been done if Jerry had stopped it.
Okay, so let's blame Jerry about it, but I guess the point is, there was some other, if you look at it specifically, just the depth, if there was other things going on revolving around it, I believe that.
Well, Tim, we're used to
Delayed this.
we're used to water resources coming here and blaming ADP.
Yeah.
This is Jerry's fault
Okay,
because they would have migrated in
what's the
February.
resolution then?
Well, here, let me ask you a
What's our
question. Let's,
resolution?
I guess, talk about the issue that we've got on the table. This server, what version is the operating system?
2016.
So.
You're running a 2016 Exchange server for government
Not
emails.
the version of Exchange. What's the version of the operating system?
2016 as well.
Where's the ADP folks?
Is that right?
What version is the operating system?
2012.
2012 is an obsolete, non-supported version of the
Wait,
operating
what if they're running 2012?
Yeah, this 2012 server and 2016 Exchange. It's two different.
So your hardware is 2012.
And just for the record, I mean,
My name is Joe Camino. I've been with Water Resources IT for about 30 years now. I've worked with Mike in support. So I'm
Okay,
very familiar with the setup over there.
so what are we running?
The Exchange server is a 2016. The Microsoft server version on there is 2012. The actual OS for the server. The Exchange is its own version.
So is that operating system from 2012 still supported?
Don't know, it's past.
no, it's end of life, end of support.
And a year ago, we were all in agreement. We all discussed this a year ago. We need to move to 365. I don't know what happens in the process of getting it approved, who's going to pay for it, who's not going to pay for it. Nobody here is debating that we needed to move this back in February of 2022 when the first attacks started happening with that version of the server. But we can only do what's approved, whether it was going to go under the umbrella of ADP or the county, or if they were going to stay on their own tenant.
So you're running
Something should
a,
happen in the last
so you're
year.
running a 2012 and a 2016 that's not supported anymore. It's vulnerable.
Correct.
You've been patching this throughout?
Yes,
All the patches are up to date?
up until.
As far as we know, except for the one that was mentioned.
And when was
But
that
we can't
patch?
get,
When was that
yeah.
patch released?
I don't know.
4 weeks ago when we patched our Exchange server.
So that was my next question. So the operating system we know is end of life, end of support. The Exchange server, the 2016 Exchange server was not currently patched, as CrowdStrike indicated.
What version are you running of Exchange, or were you?
What's left of it? Is it a 6?
The one we had before.
Yeah, or
I believe we're in
19.
2019 Exchange. Some of our servers in there are 2016.
The Exchange version is 19. What's left?
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the operating system is end of life, no longer supported. The Exchange server is not currently being properly patched. Is anybody surprised? Somebody got through?
I guess the other
Did they
question,
get through? Did it get through?
Yes.
Do you have a report from CrowdStrike or?
We
forwarded those out.
forwarded all of them. We had 3 elevated, high priority, and 1 critical.
Just
Everything you
the,
sent me needed a login name and password.
yeah, I was.
You don't have the
I don't
ability
want
to
you to look at me.
access.
I didn't send you anything.
Yeah, you don't have the ability to access the CrowdStrike infrastructure, but you had the initial write-up indicating what it was and the threat level. Everybody here received that.
I guess another question I had is, was there any indication that their Exchange server might have had any vulnerabilities prior to this happening?
Other than service of, Windows updates and patches that Microsoft releases.
There's been no
other,
issues? No ransomware, no attacks?
no
I mean,
evidence that, other
In
than.
30
the
years, we
CrowdStrike,
haven't had any issues.
I mean, I just got it yesterday on our new Office 365 through an email, right? Didn't I just get a phishing attempt hack on my email on our brand new Office 365?
yeah, this
That's
is,
not-
this is
This is not
different.
affecting a server. That's,
No.
you can't.
No, but I mean,
This is somebody that got into a back door of the server,
they got it.
into Exchange and started running nefarious scripts. Usually
I didn't
that's
think they
evidence
got in.
that they're trying to create a ransomware attack so that they can lock your files. It was looking for things to lock down.
Okay.
Have any of your vendors or partners have any ransomware or any issues?
Not at this point.
They haven't in the last year?
Joe did.
What do you mean?
One of our email servers got the same type of attack,
When was that?
December
Of last year?
of 2022.
What was the remediation? What happened?
Took that server offline. Everybody, all our emails are now on 365 as of December of 2022. We hired some forensic guys, dealt with the ransom guys, and paid the ransom and recovered our emails.
This was your company,
Yeah, this is our servers. Nothing-
not the county.
It's nothing.
Are your
else.
servers tied to the water resources
Not
servers?
at all.
So you're.
Not at all. There's no link.
No link at all.
Do you have RDP ability into any of the county servers, the water resources servers?
What's
Do you ever-
these questions for? I mean, it sounds like you guys are
When
trying
you
to
came to
find
a
a
meeting,
link.
why did you come to a meeting if it wasn't to answer
get-
questions?
What does my servers have to do with what happened the other day?
You're telling us your Exchange server was hacked in December and now theirs was hacked, and you're asking what has to do with that?
Yeah. I mean, am I responsible for Lakeland's ransomware too?
No, but you,
I mean, ransomware is a real thing.
you led yourself.
Nobody here is
You represented yourself
denying
as being their
that
IT
the
expert.
vulnerability exists
They're
because
running
Exchange
Exchange server
server.
that's not properly
Right, and a
patched.
year ago, we talked about replacing it.
Okay, you answered it. You answered a question with a question. Frank, what was your question?
Do you have the ability to remote access into any of the water resources servers?
Through third-party software, not even, I haven't for over a year. I have not for over a year.
Did you tell water resources that that
Yeah.
your server was hacked?
One of our servers was hacked.
Did you do anything?
Checked ours. Just as a precaution.
And you-
What?
Did you patch it at the time? Did you do whatever, was yours due to a vulnerability of a patch?
Yeah, they came in through OWA, which was a outright web access vulnerability.
Same exact way they came in this one?
Sure. I mean, it's been known for a year that Microsoft Exchange,
Right, but there's a patch to stop it.
there was a patch applied in February, there was a patch applied in June. There was patches applied, but, to fully replace that server and upgrade to Exchange, whatever, was not in the budget because we
No,
had
but-
plans to move to
But
365.
patching it with the current patch doesn't cost anything but the labor to do it. The patches are free. Are you subscribed to Microsoft's patching?
Yes.
Well, then, so you had to have gotten a notice that there's a
Didn't
new.
get a notice. I don't know what to tell you. If you would share your notices, we would get them to.
Well, if you were under the county, you wouldn't have to share it.
Every Tuesday, Microsoft has Patch Tuesday, where if you set your servers for automatic updates for notification, you'll get those notifications automatically
Yep.
to your server. And it'll notify you.
From what I read in that email that you sent to us, it did not say it was not patched. It said ensure that the patch was applied. I can't ensure that if I can't open the server up. So I don't know if it's been patched or not.
I guess.
You didn't give us any of this
I
information
guess the
that you're
question
spouting
is,
at us.
do you have your server set to automatically patch this notification? not to
The
patch
Windows
it?
update, sorry.
Let me ask you, so what's the resolution to it? How do you,
Well,
is there damage done right now, or did they turn it off, or did it?
they shut it off.
Okay.
Once they shut it off,
Okay.
CrowdStrike can't get access.
Okay.
So CrowdStrike can't go any further because you shut it off.
So CrowdStrike was
The
on this?
instruction on the CrowdStrike was reboot the system.
Okay.
80 people CrowdStrike on everything that touches our network.
We happened to,
Okay.
it was on from last summer, right before the incident in
Okay.
Farland. It was left on all workstations in the county.
Gotcha.
So even though we don't monitor and control that server, CrowdStrike agent sat there and ran and was protecting the environment.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it protected that server and your network and our network.
It protected that server.
Because
It
it
doesn't
shut
protect
that
our
server down.
network. It protected that particular box. And what its technique is when it detects a severity level that's high enough, it locks that box out from communicating. It
So at
prevents,
that point,
but CrowdStrike can still get in.
security level was pretty much remediated from going anywhere.
No, it's not true. We don't know where else it penetrated.
How could it get anywhere?
We don't know what else it hit.
I'm saying after they shut it.
I'm
can't
telling
go
you
anywhere.
how, I'm telling
If
you
you
how,
shut the door, you can't walk through it.
if that door is open, you can. You can get in this room. You've got, how many servers do you have at Water Resources?
But
How many of them are end of life out of support?
I would say only that one. The others are 2016 or 2019.
How many of them are currently patched with all their application software?
As far as I know, all of them, because we run that.
But you thought this one was too.
I don't know.
All
that
I'm
it
saying
wasn't.
is if you've got one vulnerability, and you've got 5 servers, 10 servers, you've got 10 vulnerabilities. You can't just say because one of them got isolated, there's no risk anymore. We did a deep scan on all of our systems as a result. So we don't know how the occurrence happened until you do some diagnostics. You don't just assume, oh, the box is off, so therefore we're all safe. This is not how it works.
No, but you're running live scanning, aren't you?
So should we open it?
Chuck,
I don't
does,
know what that means.
just
We
different,
reboot it?
does
sorry?
Crowd-
Should we reboot it?
The instruction was to reboot it. You shut it off.
Yeah, we shut it off because
I've
Yeah,
been
yeah, I didn't know
asking
what's
for,
going on.
what should we
The
do?
instruction in the email that
And
was sent to
nobody will
you
tell us.
from CrowdStrike was, we recommend you reboot. What happens then is CrowdStrike kind of starts over and it looks for, are those scripts running again?
so then
And it,
after this meeting, we just go back and
no,
reboot
I
it.
would not recommend doing that at this moment.
Chuck, does,
Why not?
We're trying to figure out what all has been affected, what all is
You're
wrong.
yelling at me for not
I'm yelling at
rebooting
you.
it, and then you're
Hold on.
telling me not to
hey,
reboot.
hey, just hold on a second. So, does CrowdStrike report directly to ADP, or does it also report to Water Resources as
It's
well?
not their product, it's our product.
But it's on their equipment
If they would
It's
give
on
us that.
county.
or accounting equipment, but nobody from Water Resources gets a, say, a
Correct.
notification or
Correct.
anything? Okay,
That's correct.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, you guys
So
didn't buy
before-
CrowdStrike, did you?
I mean, I,
No, we didn't buy it.
Okay, so then we
I wasn't
They never
sure, I
told us.
wasn't sure.
They didn't buy it. You
Yeah.
did.
so I mean, I think maybe we should move on to like solutions, but
Yeah.
before we do, maybe let's just lay out exactly, because I think the board needs to understand the kind of the progression of this. So October of 2022, ADP started the process with Water Resources to migrate to Microsoft 365.
September of 20.
Okay, I thought it was of
September
21?
We started migrating the whole county to Office.
Okay, but I'm talking about the Water
And
Resources.
Water Resources was contacted.
Okay, but then you asked them for a PO in October of 22.
Correct. September, actually.
Okay. When did they tell you the PO was there?
There were actually a couple times, but
So the quote was September 30th of 2022. They attached copies of, we attached copies of the quote telling them to open the purchase order.
How much was the quote?
It doesn't have, it's attached.
Okay,
I don't have that.
I think the original was somewhere around 12,000, and then they had to get an additional quote later on because it expired, and it ended up being 13,000 to 14,000.
okay.
So
And it looks like,
Is that for
the
licensing?
first one wasn't a
Well-
failure, the second one.
it's licensing, but it's also migration and labor from expert IT to do the work.
so yeah, so in, the date is October 18th of 2022, Mike Kurtzinger wrote that they were ready to go, they were going to use an outsourced company to do their implementation, Expert IT.
Okay.
The plan was on 6/6 of 2022 to do that implementation. It was supposed to be last year. They made amendments to the plan and the time frame, and they would like a quick phone call to confirm who's going to be the point of contact and a variety of other things. That was done. We then initiated the contact with Expert IT to do that work.
Okay,
So late fall of last year.
so late fall, you get the outside vendor, give them the quote, they obtained a PO
Yes,
to pay the outside vendor.
yes. They scheduled it then for work to be done the first week of February, and on February 2nd is when they told us to stand down.
Okay,
So
and then,
the vendor was already ready.
well, so that's October. So it would have, the migration could have started in October.
Yes.
Then in December, their IT vendor gets ransomware with the same type of attack, it sounds like.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay. They don't patch their Exchange servers properly and they're out of date. And then we try to follow up with them on February 2nd to actually begin the migration process. So that would have been about a 2-week thing, right? So they would have been done mid-February, I'm sorry, February,
It would have
mid-February.
been done by the end of February.
Okay, so February 2nd, and then February 2nd, Mike Kurtzinger sends an email saying Jerry Morgan has instructed Steve and Mike not to move forward with the 0365 conversion. So that's when they stopped. And they've been running their Exchange server ever since.
Or sign up.
Okay. So now, then once again, the only reason we knew about the attack was because we had put CrowdStrike on all
It was locked.
county equipment.
Unlocked.
And, I mean, it's all on all of our equipment, but we had put it on their equipment also because it touched the county.
We put it on their equipment last summer.
Okay.
And never took it off.
Okay, so that saved it going beyond their Exchange server. Correct. Okay, so now their Exchange server shut down, they don't have email.
Right.
So how are we gonna, so can we do Jerry, you gonna allow the 365 migration now?
Yeah, I had already actually talked to them, once our officers.
So you didn't talk to who?
To Water Resources.
Okay, we didn't talk to ADP or the board, did you?
No, I know that I hadn't talked to ADB or.
Apparently you run the whole county. I've been reading this email. So, okay, so Jerry's now given his blessing now that there's been a horrible cyber attack to us doing a 365
That was
conversion.
prior to what happened. That I had-
Jerry, the only thing I have in writing from you
I
is
know,
from
but you
February
don't,
2nd.
you can, stop deciding you're gonna testify. Gonna keep correcting your testimony.
Jerry, you lie to me all the time, so I have to rely on.
When have I lied? When have
I
I,
have to-
now, give me an example. You use these excuses all
Okay.
the time.
When you sat in this meeting almost 2 years ago and told us that Water Resources was going to completely come under ADP, do you remember sitting here telling us that?
Yes, and we were working
Okay,
towards that.
and
We've been
okay.
working towards that.
well, when you haven't done it in 2 years, I would say that you lied to me.
Well, maybe you should talk to
Yeah.
other people too.
You lied to the
What
board.
happened during that process?
So you stopped the migration and now they don't have email. I know you were anxious to blame Frank and Chuck, but it's your fault.
I'm not,
So-
wait, when have I said it's Chuck and Frank's fault?
Every time you blame them, McFarland shut down on them. You went to the Bainbridge police and
Have I
filed a
said
police
that?
report against them. Did you
Because
guys do
you,
that?
because you legally, they legally put a camera
Okay.
into a county building without
Okay,
authorization.
sure. So you stopped this conversion in February, unfortunately, so now we're stuck with this problem. So what can we do here? Can we do the 365?
Well,
Apparently Jerry says we're
We
allowed
have
to
to
do
get
it.
a hold of expert IT. So we've been applying Office 365 using EDP staff everywhere else in the county. The reason we didn't do it for Water Resources because of all the difficulty we had with them. But I didn't want to subject our employees to that after the McFarland incident. If you change something in IT, all of a sudden, plant shut down, which doesn't make any sense, but I don't want to go there again. I didn't want to risk, I didn't want to put them in harm's way that way. So consequently, we said, let's just farm out that work. And that's what we did. Well, now we've told them, stand down. So I don't know what expert IT schedule is. I don't know if they,
Excuse me, what do you mean harm's way?
well, as Jim already indicated, we put 7 people on Jerry's command, get people at that plant when it shut down. You texted people saying, I want bodies at that plant because we had changed IT passwords. And the implication you were giving to everyone was our changing of IT passwords shut down your wastewater plant. That was the
Well, actually,
implication.
No one knows what shut it down.
Exactly. Why is that?
County spent $50,000, sent Dragos out, not to remediate the problem, but to do forensic studies to try to make.
Well,
No, Steve, the commissioners,
No, stop
Steve,
it. We
the
haven't had a
commissioners,
chance.
the commissioner's office blocked funding, finalizing the Dragos investigation. They blocked it every step of the way.
We were told the
They
day that,
came out and interviewed us. So what do you mean?
well, Jerry
Our server
told
room,
my staff after an ADP meeting, when we first discovered the incident in McFarland, that the next day he would transfer $50,000 to pay for Dragos.
Okay, I'm aware.
Well, I'm just telling you what happened. You knew a minute ago, so I'm telling you what really happened.
Well, I'm worried about.
24 hours after that commitment was made, he then sent an email saying you would pay for the $50,000.
Right,
You then told us it would take about 4 weeks to get a purchase order. So what are you worried about remediation for?
which is true,
Takes 4 weeks
which
to
is true. I can't get anything
Well,
to
so
our
why would you
office.
expect your
That's what
email
we
to be,
report.
why would you expect your email to be corrected any quicker than 4 weeks? It takes 4 weeks to get a purchase order.
I mean, Steve, you can understand why ADP is a little gun shy. I mean, Jerry
No, I
illegally,
understand why the dynamics-
Jerry illegally filed a lawsuit against ADP employees.
I did not, the commissioner's office.
Oh, what meeting was that
I
approved,
wasn't
Jerry?
part of
It doesn't have to be approved in the
What-
meeting. They,
what meeting?
you don't have to, it was talking to legal advice.
What
Legal
meeting,
advice.
I'm sorry, what meeting was the lawsuit authorized on? What meeting?
It was not in a meeting.
Never in a public meeting.
It doesn't have to be.
You signed the complaint, didn't you, Jerry?
I signed it, yes, based on my
Okay.
knowledge, I signed it, yes.
Under whose authority?
The commissioner's authority.
In what meeting did they give you authority to sign a
Let's-
lawsuit?
You know, you want to keep arguing?
Okay, well, no,
We can
I said the lawsuit
No.
was illegal. I'm
If you
asking.
want to argue,
questions.
I'm glad to argue with you later.
Okay.
We're wasting all of these people's
So-
time by arguing
so
stuff
you-
that happened in the
You
past.
illegally sued individual ADP employees. That's why they hired an outside vendor to take care of this email thing. That's why we're doing these things.
No.
We're not-
Your time's short. They hired the outside vendor long before. the lawsuit
No,
was filed.
they hired the outside vendor though after the McFarland thing when you called the police on them. So
So
we're
to
using
answer-
an outside vendor.
To answer your question, I can't speak for expert IT. I don't know what happened when we dropped them off the schedule. They're not doing any work anywhere else in the county for implementing Office 365, ADP is. So we would have to re-engage with them and see if their quote is still good. I don't know if it is. I don't know the status of, you open the PO. I don't know what the status is of that PO. We're in no man's land. And I guess the question is the goal now to get Exchange back running? I mean, is that what we want to do?
Question. If yesterday the goal was to restart the server and let CloudStrike continue and remediate it, and now you're saying,
CrowdStrike doesn't remediate. It shuts down.
then what did they need to get back in there for?
Because they recommunicate to see if the pattern repeats. They're looking for forensics.
Right, and they would either open the server up and close it if it's not there.
I don't understand what you mean by open it and close it. You mean let it talk
The
to
door,
other air?
yeah. But if we don't get access to that, you can't create the 365.
What needs to happen is
You
that
don't need the
server
server
needs,
to do 365. You lose the history. You can do 365 with nothing. That's what the Parks did when they separated. They didn't take our Exchange server and they started from scratch. And then you can import the old Exchange data. You can do all kinds of tricks.
it's a lot easier if the Exchange server is back.
I
up
get
and
what's easier, but
operational.
we're also in a position right now where the system is shut down.
But we
I'm
can still
not putting that
dismantle
system,
some
I'm just gonna be clear, that system is not going on the county now. In any way, shape, or form.
But it was fine to do it yesterday.
To do what? To shut it off?
Reboot it.
You just said reboot it.
Rebooting it does not put it back on our system. It puts it back in communication with CrowdStrike.
Frankly, it shouldn't have been on our system. I didn't know they were so negligently maintaining it. It shouldn't have been on our system. 2012, that's not supported. It shouldn't have been on our system.
So let me ask this question. Can Water Resources transfer to Office 365 themselves? Without having. to
Even
bring-
an ADP's board has to consider what you're offering and you've got to approve
Read the
it.
revised code, Jerry. The ADP does IT. We're not doing these games anymore.
I have read the revised code, Jim. I've read it all because I brought up sections that you said you weren't familiar with. So, if you want to go down that road, that's fine. But
Are you saying that,
Office-
are you saying
Water
that?
Resources, what I'm asking is, let me finish what I'm saying before we start attacking. If Water Resources, they can hopefully solve this initial issue that we're having right now, transfer over to Office 365, just themselves internally. And then at a later date, convert over to whatever ADP has with regards to their.
Why would we do a later date, Jerry? It's been 2.5 years migrating water resources supposedly into
I'm trying to
ADP.
solve the immediate issue.
But the
You're
problem
talking
is,
about your outside source, you don't know whether they can.
it's not my outside source, it's your vendor. They hired them, I didn't. We just gave them a name. They can call expert IT and see if they're available.
So they could do that.
What do you want me to do?
So they could call.
The way I understood what you said before was you guys hired expert IT.
We gave them a recommendation of people that could do this work. They chose the vendor, they approved the agreement, they cut the PO.
It's not to
I
be
didn't.
standalone. They're not running their own email. You guys are out of the email business. You shouldn't have been in it in the first place. The revised code says that ADP runs IT. Unless we give you permission, the board votes to give you permission to do otherwise, you can't run your own email. So you're coming under the county's 365.
There's also another section in the higher advice code, if you read a little bit further down, it says that the commissioners can hire and for services.
They're not the
Email will be a
commissioners.
service.
They're not the commissioners. I gave you the law, Jerry. If you felt so confident in the law, you shouldn't have dismissed your lawsuit after wasting $60,000.
We did, and that's part of the reason for right now is we had requested, because we dismissed the lawsuit for the purposes of being able to come before the board, commissioners, come before the board and present to the board a possible option to solve, move this project.
Well,
That's something for it.
I accept that you made a request for 2 issues before the ADP board. Neither one was email. It was the mission product and it was key card access. It had nothing to do with email, just to be clear. So if the issue was addressed of the 2 things you requested, this email issue would never have been resolved. That was not on the table, my understanding, unless you sent a different letter and I didn't receive it.
Yeah, and my feeling, and I've said this before, I'm totally okay and comfortable with moving water resources. You know, I know it's been working outside the umbrella of ADP for the last, 35, 40 years or whatever it is, but moving that towards ADP. My only thing is that they still need the ability, the IT people, to be able to operate their hardware out in the field and be able to have 24-hour service and access to their operational technology.
I understand, but that's not what, this emergency
I know.
meeting is not
That's
about OT for water
I understand,
resources.
but that's what, but
This exchange server is hard IT.
agreed.
There's no way around it.
No, I-
Email is IT, it's not
100%.
OT.
And walking into this, not knowing anything that happened in the last 24 hours, that was what my proposal was to move this towards the new Office 365 as fast as possible, getting it under the
Just
county.
to be clear, the Office 365, you guys are simplifying it, was never presented to water resources. It's just, let's migrate the mail. Originally, it was that, and then it was, we were taking the servers. You need to get your users migrated to the GCO ADP, local Windows domain. It wasn't just, let's move your email to 365. It was taken over to servers, administration of all the user accounts, passwords. It was a lot more than just moving emails for those of you that, because otherwise this would have been done a year
Well,
and a half ago.
I will take,
All
I will
agreed.
take exception.
If we moved the email a year and a half.
How many of the
ago,
ADP meetings have you attended other than this one?
No, but that's, I agree with what you're saying. I do. I agree with what
I'm
you're saying.
listening to all this, and then you guys wonder why the server was never upgraded. We've been bickering for a year and a half. Everybody here agreed. We need to move this email, get rid of this email server.
What,
Instead of pointing
what
fingers.
was preventing anyone at Water Resource?
Would have been
Because
done.
if you look
Can I
at
finish my sentence before you
expert
interrupt?
IT's proposal.
Can I finish my sentence before you interrupt? What was preventing Water Resources or their IT vendor, you, from putting in a service patch on an Exchange server that is free? What was stopping that?
The operating system was also outdated. I agree with you. That was.
Well, there you go. Who approved that operating system?
We did operating systems, but we couldn't do anything. We can't get any kind of.
Because you want to do everything outside of the boundaries of the law requiring
I
EDP
don't
to
know.
control this.
I'm an IT guy. All I know is the recommendation was to
But you're asserting
replace that
positions.
server because we weren't going to get approved to replace it, nor did we.
Understand, Joe, this is not your meeting. This is ADP's
Brought
board's
here
meeting.
by Water Resources. to get
Exactly.
some
It's not
IT.
their meeting either. This is the ADP board meeting. So with all due respect, you should be the technical expert when asked, and you should not be asserting what you believe the process or procedure is of the county serving under ADP as the administrator of technology.
So tell us what you want. for us to do.
Well, I think Jim has already indicated that he wants it to go to Office 365. You should contact that vendor and see if they're available. We're not the ones who shut it down. You guys are the ones who said, stand down from Office 365. Appears that that was not a good decision.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh, okay. Well, maybe not then. Then just don't do anything. What do you want me to do? It's,
You know,
first
this
of all,
is
it's not my
so much
server, it's your server.
Animosity and antagonism in here. You know, we try to present something, stop, please.
What's interesting is you are always making those assertions when you guys are in a troubled area and you need help. Then all of a sudden, ADP is available at your disposal. Any other time it's.
Never been available at our disposal. I mean,
Well,
let's
hence,
get out of this. What do we need to
hence
do?
I wonder
Jeff,
why
I
you
guess
don't want to
we're
come under
making a
ADP.
decision.
Okay, I make a motion that Water Resources,
Can we take action today?
yeah, we can, on this specific topic, we can't take action.
Discussion.
No,
On the agenda.
no, I make a motion that ADP works with the vendor to establish Microsoft 365 email
So we
under ADP for Water Resources. Is that,
migrating
well, and then
water into
It's already
ADP's
out
tenant.
there.
And then we'll try to recover. What can we
We
recover?
might be able to take the box and ship it to CrowdStrike and have them
Okay,
try to remediate.
and then
Maybe extra.
we take the physical server, send it to CrowdStrike for data.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, let's just see what we can mediate off of that server, what can be
So
recovered.
ADP will attempt to recover from the server anything to give them historical email in when we do the 365. Is that happy to make you guys happy?
It's painful. It's
Water Resources.
with what? With a promise? No, I'm already out, with all due respect, I'm down $50,000 from CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Or from Dragos.
I know.
Because I was promised I would be reimbursed for that.
I know.
You think I'm gonna do that a second time? I'm gonna front the money and hope that I get reimbursed?
Yeah, I forgot about that representation, Jerry, that you pay for the meeting.
We do have the outstanding PO, I think it's still active.
Is that enough though?
I don't
Well,
know.
no, we have, there may be CrowdStrike.
Well, listen, okay, if they want us to recover data off their Exchange server, then Water Resources to pay for it upfront. Fine?
Joe, does any of that?
I don't need internet access to recover that. So it doesn't have to be attached. Just need services and structure.
Well, wait a second.
Well, we need CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Who's doing this work?
ADP's doing
Hang on a second.
the.
We're going down the same, this is why it never works.
What he's doing is offering his services to
But we
pull
need
off
to
of the,
verify
off
that.
of the Exchange server.
I think you would agree.
I agree.
Why don't you use your backup?
Never, well, we back it to that.
Why don't you use your backup server?
Right, but again.
You got your exchanges being backed up, I think, right?
If there's something.
We're going to take action on this issue.
Let's let CrowdStrike off us.
Let's have
Yeah,
one
wait, wait.
conversation.
Where's your
Do
email?
you guys have an email? Let's have one conversation, please. Do you guys have a backup of your Exchange server?
Yes.
Why don't you look at the backup and we redeploy the backup?
We could if we knew when this happened.
Can you
You
guys,
said 4 in the
can we do
morning.
this offline, separate from a meeting? I got stuff to do today, but can they sit down, the IT guys, and figure this out?
No, this has to be resolved in this open meeting.
But we'll
In
all
a meeting
agree
or in writing.
or agree to.
No more conversations.
No, but I think we all agree to move towards Office 365, right?
That's the
Well,
That's the
but
motion.
but I'm
And all the
hearing, I'm
details
hearing
about how to do it.
having other vendors doing.
No, ADP's doing it.
Okay,
My motion is that ADP does the Office 365 for Water Resources under the county umbrella. Is that how you want to word it?
And I say we deploy it from scratch, and then we look at your backup and see what we can migrate in.
Onto the county's tenant.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
separate.
Not separate, under the county. That's my motion.
To be clear, only ADP has access to that tenant. Water Resources employees will not have access to the tenant.
Yeah.
It's the
It's
whole
on the county, it's the county.
Is that gonna be a problem later?
is there any issue with that, with Water Resources for any reason, like as far as running a plant or, I mean, having your email, a county email?
We need to email it as soon as possible.
Okay, but I mean, is there any issue, outside like that you could perceive that would be,
I mean,
right? No?
as long as the scope of work is just moving mailboxes, if it starts affecting our infrastructure.
I'm talking about
Then we
not
need to
making
look at it, because if you look at what's Expert IT's original proposal, they wanted to do a lot more, which.
I understand, but this is email.
Why are we having this conversation with the vendor?
But,
Why are we having
but
this?
this is email, right? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm not affected by this.
Okay.
Why
So-
are we engaging policy of the county through a vendor?
I'm not. I'm just asking a simple question. We're
It
talking
seems to me this board controls the technology and every member on it has a voice.
Right.
But outside vendors are to be instructed what to do. They're not to direct us in what action we're, that's like, somebody starts telling the sheriff how we should treat prisoners.
Yeah.
That's like, well, time out.
No, I was just asking out loud there, Jerry, or,
So no, he was asking you a question about,
yeah.
for verification before it votes. The person who had that information
But
was.
Joe was
the vendor.
asserting that the, wait a minute, the Expert IT quote and all of these other things, we're not gonna à la carte this crossover to Office 365. We're not gonna say, pick this, don't pick this, don't pick that. We're gonna take the Expert IT quote of what we're going to do and we're going to
I'm
implement.
gonna ask you a question for clarification. Is moving water resources over to Office 365 only moving the mail?
If it requires a domain change because it's coming under the county, we're going to do that. If it requires any other changes to make that happen, we're going to do it. We're not gonna just,
But those changes are still only affecting the mail, you know.
Listen, you guys want to keep fighting us, you want to email. I don't care. I don't care if you don't.
I'm sorry, before the board votes, I would like them to have all the information that they need in order to cast.
Can I address Jerry?
a clear vote.
The point is,
I didn't know you're not a member of the board, Jerry. So
But the question was asked by a member of the board to Water Resources.
then why are you talking?
Because I'm over Water Resources.
I'm just
As
asking.
county administrator, I'm
Oh,
over.
okay.
I mean, I don't.
Oh, that's why you stopped the migration.
I mean, if we're gonna sit here and
No, I'm
fight stuff,
stopping
I
my
gotta
question
go.
because you know exactly why.
Seriously.
if I can
We're gonna sit
address
here
that,
But I keep
I'm
saying-
gonna leave here in a minute.
the point is to do the least amount of work possible to migrate the email. Now, if the least amount of work does not involve migrating the domain, then we would not touch that. If it revolves around also migrating the domain, then we would have to do that in order to do Microsoft
Okay,
365.
okay. That's,
I don't want to do any
that's
more
what I
than
was
that.
asking.
and if the overall goal is to put ADP over the technology of Water Resources, it would make sense you consider all of those
I agree.
aspects when you do this move.
Right.
Rather than do it once and then go back and then, I mean, unfortunately, different than vendors, we don't make profit on any of this. There's no money. It's,
Well, I had that old legacy domain. You guys had to get rid of
And
it.
we had
Yeah.
to migrate your domain with
Yeah.
email.
Everybody has
same
it,
as
right?
no.
Yeah.
No, I had
Yours
a
real old one.
Yeah. I
Well, no,
had
His took a month.
.com.
So just so
Yeah,
everybody's
that's a
got the
big-
expectation, his was very complicated. It was a month converting his exchange.
It's getting all your history.
No,
Yeah.
No, getting it
Getting the
set up
domains
because I
for it.
had this domain.
Oh, yeah, it's because it was Geauga County Prosecutors.
No, it was GCPA.com.
Yeah. Do you still utilize it today or no?
No, they changed everything over.
No, it's just ours.
He's on the main
Yeah.
ADP tenant.
I'm
Yeah, that's the way we should go.
.jaga.oh.
Yeah. That's what we should do.
That's the point. Yeah.
Excuse my ignorance on this IT stuff, but I can get to the meat of this.
Okay, so the motion is that ADP is going to do this. Any costs borne by Water Resources upfront. But ADP is going to establish the Microsoft 365 and anything else that's necessary in order to make that conversion. And at Water Resources costs, ADP will attempt to recover the historical data. I mean, you probably want your old emails on Microsoft 365, right? I mean, that's what you had to do with me. That was a pain. Is that clear enough?
This was brought up briefly in the beginning, that there was 4 other servers that they run, and we don't know if those have been compromised. So by moving to 365, is this going to be something that will protect them for those four? So will CrowdStrike start running once we turn on 365 for those other servers? Or is it just going to open the door?
Right now, their other servers do not show any CrowdStrike alert. So it would seem that they're not affected. But you don't know that until after it's all said and done. So,
Is that part of this discussion? Is it?
no, we haven't talked about that at all.
That
This is
those other
getting the,
servers,
this is getting the infected system.
just the one that we know for sure that is infected. Thank you.
All right, that's my motion.
Okay, do you wanna read it or say it again?
Pam?
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah, okay, so I was taking shorthand this. So you mentioned that ADP does the Office 365 migration for water resources, and anything else necessary, any costs incurred by water resources will be paid up front and recover the historical data. If possible.
So does this mean that how long is it gonna take?
Jim's took a month.
So does this mean they're not gonna have emails for a month?
They could use Gmail. I don't know if they're using Gmail now.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can throw up on their website, get a generic Gmail set up and put it on their website.
Well,
They manage their website.
they manage their own website. We'd love to do, Jim, but we don't have access.
Okay, well, then that's up to them. It's their problem.
It's also the residents' problems of this county.
Yeah, well, it's your guys' fault, and you have no sympathy for me.
Scott?
Is there any quicker way to do it? I mean, how do you function without?
I mean,
email?
it can be done in a week. I mean, right? Some of them were in a week.
Some were done in a couple of days.
We don't
This
know
one's
until we
pretty-
have to dig in and find out.
Pretty bad.
We have to spin it up and how many users do you have? We've got to do all that.
We don't.
Maybe
use
try to
that
identify
We had set up.
Try to identify the most important ones first and see if you can go through those and then work through
I
the
didn't tell
ones
my
that don't
people
need
contact.
email on a daily basis.
I'm sorry, Steve?
I just wanted to know, based on this RPO and all that's mute then, right? With expert IT.
Wait, what's,
If ADP is gonna handle everything,
no, we're going to need expert IT, we're going to work with them.
that's what I'm trying to figure
We need
out.
their hours.
Okay.
Your
You know,
system is very complicated.
Yeah, it is very complicated. But, I
So
just
you've
want to
done,
make sure that that's the vendor that we already had.
well, you've
contracted
done
with.
some in 2 days and mine was the worst, I
Yours
think,
was
right?
4 weeks.
But just so you're
Like
aware,
yours.
the total cost associated with this won't be just the expert IT component.
No, Chuck, I know.
Because now
that
we're in a
could be
different
more
mode.
costs.
We're in a reactive mode, not in a proactive mode. Right? The server's down. So now we have to put all hands on deck to try to get data and you email as quickly as possible. That was not in the original scope of work.
Roger
Hey,
that.
just a dumb question, maybe you already answered it, but that server, it's down. What if you turned it back on? Could you turn it back
If
on?
we turn it back on, it's going to communicate only with CrowdStrike.
So CrowdStrike
Isn't that
has it
right?
isolated right now.
Don't you think, Zach, that CrowdStrike would dive in and
So,
Right, so they're essentially waiting for it to be turned on. There was an issue with communicating with it. They weren't able to continue the investigation, which is why they had sent some suggestions to try. But really, we don't know if there's more to it. We would need to troubleshoot.
I guess my question is, I'm getting at, is there any way to save that thing and limp it along until then?
It will be determined on what CrowdStrike sees. The question is if they're able to get into the machine. They don't have a full picture.
And like maybe say operate it where it's still, maybe it can't communicate necessarily with the county or interact with the county, but they could still, on the outside, still be able to,
I don't think so.
no?
Right, but maybe we
We're
turn it on and it
segregated
just rings
from
them just like Joe's.
Oh, like it goes again.
Yeah.
So that's a risk we could take, sure. Maybe there's ever.
I was just trying to think of like a patch there to kind of make it through the process or whatever, but yeah, that's why I don't do this for a living.
And I don't either. I mean, can you physically pull the thing out of the rack and then because it's been infected, is it possible to do data recovery on something that's infected?
well, we would
Yeah, backup.
Start them.
So what is this?
Well, apparently there's a backup, so we'll do that.
Presuming we have backup.
Steve does. That's not what I would do, but I would,
But if it's
I would
gonna,
put this on a
let's
segregated
presume
line.
it came from their vendors ransom in December. It's
Well-
probably in the backup, right?
We're assuming that.
Okay.
Hold on.
So you're assuming it is in the backup?
I'm assuming it isn't.
Well, was, Joe, in your case, was your infected, was yours able just to back up and go from your ransomware?
That was,
Or was your backup infected?
well, the backup was, yeah, but we were able to recover all the data from the backup.
Why'd you pay the ransom?
Because there was other stuff infected that was gonna take longer to retrieve and rebuild that server and migrate. I had 1,600 mailboxes on there. I had to migrate 1,600 mailboxes. I would have had to import and export and import. Wasn't feasible. They only have 40 emails. I could have a tenant running by the end of the day, create those 40 users. You don't have your history. We're only talking about history here of getting that old server up. Yeah, that's important, but they can start using their email.
That's more important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If they can at least start communicating, and then there's ways, whether it's the backup, fixing the server, or using their Outlook, whatever, we can get their old emails.
Well, I don't want a 2012 server on ours.
Why can't you just?
It's not
Without
going
bringing that
back.
server back on.
No.
It's not going back on.
Their emails working.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
No, but it could still at least,
How's it gonna communicate?
well, with their other outside vendors, right? I mean,
They're on our-
day to day.
They gotta get, somehow they gotta get on the web.
Yeah, they're on
We've got crossover, we've got ISPs that cross
Their
over.
servers
None
are
of
on
it.
our
Look, the biggest vulnerability I see is at Board of Elections. That switch down there, this Exchange server, it's not at the new building, correct?
Right.
It's at the old building. So there's your question, Tim.
And that goes out through Time Warner.
But it's through an ISP switch, correct?
We have a
shared-
private connection.
But there's also a shared switch, if I understand correctly, which bridges over to Board of Elections. I'm not having the Secretary of State calling me at home and saying, what the heck did you do? I'm not doing that.
No, but that can be fired up on that Time Warner line with everything else shut off. I'm willing to work with any of your guys to get it to work.
At this point in time, we also could have just patched the server.
Why can't you just pull the server out, and put a new one,
Well, it's got all the data on it.
and then
Could,
work
but
on getting the data?
well, what we would do is we would connect it to an independent line to CrowdStrike and let them try to do some recovery.
We're basically doing, we're starting a
basically
new,
doing that.
we're starting.
But in the
a new-
meantime, it doesn't give them their data, it doesn't give them their old history unless we spin up a new server, download their backup and do that.
But it's only emails on the server, right? Yep. All our alarms send emails.
Oh, that's how it communicates with the plant?
No, that's how it gets it to all our guys.
Alerts.
So right now, you
There's
don't
high
see any,
levels, if there's any
alerts.
kind of problem.
We have.
Or you have manual,
All the
physical.
more reason why it is so critical that those systems be current and patched.
Mhm.
It's irresponsible to put a system in place that is vital to wastewater treatment plants that are outdated, unsupported, and unpatched. I get it, that's looking in the rearview mirror, but if we don't learn from looking in the rearview mirror, there's something wrong with us.
But I would also say, Chuck, if we were 3 and 4 behind, then we would be more culpable than we're 1.
Oh, so
behind.
it's okay if you only speed 10 miles over the speed limit, as long as you don't go 20 miles over the speed limit.
Depends on the police officer.
Right.
That
Well,
was-
well, there you go.
There's a motion.
Yeah, I made a motion. Anyone want to say that?
I'll second.
Joe,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
Scott?
Yes.
Michelle? Yes. Celeste? Yes. Sheila? Yes. Chuck?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And can I just suggest, because obviously there's a gigantic communication issue here, that ADP and Water Resources designate whoever it is, and it doesn't have to be the directors or whatever, but whoever is comfortable being able to communicate together and talk to each other and work together. Is that possible? I mean, they can still report back and to the bigger picture stuff, but just so we don't end up spiraling into, point fingers or, and if it does get to that, please make me aware quickly so I can maybe help. Because really that's what we're here for as elected officials, is to keep this thing. This is not good for anybody here, but we do need to solve the problems. If there's a way we can designate guys that know the IT, the meat of it, and that's just my suggestion, if we could somehow do that.
I would like to be part of that. If ADP doesn't have an objection, I'd like to help.
I actually do have an objection to that based on the history here.
Okay.
If it were possible, Adrian Morgan, who has extensive experience with water resources, has been a very easy contact to work with.
I disagree with that.
If he could communicate with water, that would make things very easy.
That's the thing between me and you.
And
There's
there's a problem.
I worked with these guys and not had a problem.
How can we do that? How does that work?
We just want to get it done.
Adrian's
Yeah.
our financial guy, but I mean,
Well, there's a bigger problem with that I can't speak to in this room, but with Adrian being that person.
yeah,
You can talk to him tonight.
Well, we'll try to find someone else.
I don't know. It's just maybe not.
I mean, listen, they're not gonna. They had a baseless police complaint made against them. They were illegally sued, I get where they're, a little reluctant to work with you guys. And again, representations were made to this board over 2 years ago that Water Resources was gonna transition over, and look where we are. I mean, it's embarrassing.
I agree. This is embarrassing.
Speaking to the other electeds in the room, when I think you could appreciate, it's very difficult to volunteer a appointed person that works for you that could become subject to being named in a lawsuit. I think that if any of you could walk in those shoes for a minute, I get to pick the next person who could be subject to have his name put on a lawsuit. I've never in my life experienced a county naming a person.
This
that
is
in-
beyond the
that's in-
discussion of
It's-
this.
it's
Well,
not- no,
You raised
yeah.
the question.
No, I
Can
just
we
said,
not, who do I pick?
I mean, you guys sued individual
Yeah,
employees.
and we-
It was classless,
But we know-
classless and uncalled for.
it was a
and
temporary
it was,
restraining order.
and it was vindictive by him, by the guy who walked out of the room. So, it is what it is.
I
So
just-
I don't blame
I
them
just can't
for
put
being,
somebody
yeah,
else.
I mean,
Okay, let's go.
you can put people in harm's way. They offered Adrian
Let's keep
can't
it
do it.
going. Let's keep it
That's
going.
fine.
Let's go.
Well, Tim, you can
Keep it
take that attitude. but
No.
You're part of the solution.
I
part
just
of the
brought it
problem.
up
And I told
and
you
you're
why.
saying no.
I actually
I
made a
told
legitimate
you-
suggestion.
I told you why.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Guess we're not gonna have public comment because Tim's decided that.
Well,
We always
I mean-
usually have public comment at our meetings.
okay, go ahead. Let's go.
So I'll open it for the public comment.
I mean, come on.
Can I ask a question? This is
Does have
Elise
to
from.
be- Does have to be limited to this
So it
topic.
has to be limited to this topic, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, can you guys just reconfirm the agreement or the resolution you just came to? There was a lot of back and forth.
Man, can you stumble through it again?
Yeah.
You know what, we're gonna put it in an email and we'll email it out to the board and Pam will email it out to you. How about that?
Great, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Anybody here? No? Okay.
Being that the email server is off and down, can we get back into operation? We have no access to anything.
We can figure out what's going on.
I mean, I don't know if that's our issue. They shut it down. CrowdStrike was trying to figure it out.
So we open it up, CrowdStrike and figure it out.
Is there a way to communicate with CrowdStrike?
They won't give us that.
Well, we do
I
have
asked for an
communication.
intermediary.
Well, look, we employed CrowdStrike we are going to be the source of communication to CrowdStrike. I have to justify paying that bill. I'm not going to open CrowdStrike up for the universe to call and ask them all kinds of questions that may be contrary to ADP's direction. So that's how it's going to be.
So there's no way for them to,
What do they have to say to CrowdStrike?
I guess, I don't know.
I
don't know.
I said to one of your people,
I don't.
is the intermediary.
Well, I'm answering Tim's question, is why can't they have access to CrowdStrike?
Or communicate with them to try and,
No, they can't.
No.
We pay for a single point of contact. Zach is the CrowdStrike guy.
okay,
So if you have a question for CrowdStrike, that's where you direct her.
okay, thank you. That's
He
good to
will
know.
take it, he's the one that's been
That's good to know.
reporting every incident.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Well, the generation of emails coming from Zach has been, well, Zach is giving it to Frank. So we try to keep Zach focused on the problem and the event and where it's escalating. So he's not gonna be picking up the phone and talking to people. He's gonna be talking to CrowdStrike and try to find where the issue is. How severe is it? Is it half of the building, all the building? That's what he's trying to determine. So it's a planned response. It's not an arbitrary response.
Right, I understand. I'm just asking, how do we get our files back up? How do we get access back to the internet, to New World? The server is already locked down.
They're out of the world.
Yeah, no, they
That's
have,
CrowdStrike's
So
alert was,
they can't do billings.
close them
No,
off,
we can't.
so you can figure out what's going on.
So here's
No
the
bills,
issue.
no
The
nothing.
server connects to the switch at building 3 next to the Board of Elections. It uses the same internet we have over there. We had to shut that down to ensure that nothing went to the switch and got to Board of Elections. Everything else goes through there. We can open that back up, and then that presumes that nothing else at water is, okay, there you go.
Here's what I'd like, before I just light the fuse again, I'd like to know, in fact, are any other servers in your area, are they all current? Are they all currently patched? Those are reasonable questions to ask before somebody hangs onto your network. And if they aren't, you need to start doing that,
We have to
or we
protect
need to start doing
Board of Elections.
that.
That's the
I am,
highest
that
priority.
scares me to death.
That's the highest priority.
The fact that you guys were one wire away from that catastrophe scares me to death. It's not right. So I don't know how we do that. I mean, the question is, should you be doing that? Those are servers that should be under ADP. That's the question. And that's the debate we've had for 3 years here. And now we're having that debate again.
Are all those servers, connected to the network or just the email server?
No, they're all on,
They're all connected to it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you just said you had your own internet line going to them.
I do.
Warner.
but it goes through an IP switch.
It still goes through our network.
Goes through a switch.
It's the old, building.
See, that's never been moved. It's all old stuff.
Well, I remember we were replacing stuff because we thought.
The building.
That's the other issue. I mean, unless you have a question.
Well, there's been so many conversations going on, I just want to be clear. Are they getting their email up without the backup right away and then worrying about the old stuff so they can get up and running?
Yeah.
Or are we waiting and getting it all up together? Just so we're all clear.
We're getting 365 up as fast as we can.
Okay, that's.
And
what-
Without historical data.
We're gonna
That's-
try to use historical data, but that's not gonna be our obstacle. We
But
can't,
with 365 now, they could at least begin to do some work, right?
Just emails.
Yeah, how do we solve like how do we solve like the New World problem?
Well, I think we need verification into the
Verify.
other server environment, what's patched, what's unpatched, and the year the OS is whether or not they're supported.
I mean,
How many servers anybody?
Andy is probably the guy I'm gonna be most concerned about. Do you agree, before we light them back up, we need to make sure their servers, all their stations are up to current version?
Yeah, fortunately, CrowdStrike's monitoring all of them, so as soon as we get the all clear, we can open up more.
So you can turn on the other servers, but
They should have
The
New
email-
World access from the new building
They do.
already.
So the old ones, all of them.
you don't have
We
New
don't
World
have
access to the
any
new
of
building?
Well, you may have, if you're
We're talking
trying,
louder. We said.
They're VPN through. They don't go direct.
So you could have a DNS issue if you're trying to use DNS that was cut off. You may need to adjust some of those DNS servers. That might be what's impacting you.
Can Andy work with Mike to get that?
Well, we're gonna have Andy working on, what do you want done first? You want to email it first? You want
Is
to
that what
the
Andy's,
network?
that's,
We have 7 people working on this issue. I don't have a deep bench. That's the issue.
no, I understand.
I would like to clear the servers first.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Before you get email.
They do their analysis.
Right, that should take
There are
an hour.
possible other options, if you have VPN access into the old network still through your existing firewall at 470, maybe you could get to your files that way.
I don't want any outdated versions on our network.
I mean, are your other 4 servers from 2012?
We don't know.
No.
He says he doesn't think so, but I want verification. I'm sorry.
I'm willing to do it.
I want
Said it
verification.
10 times.
Okay, so now the priority is again, we have to do this in meetings and waste everybody's time. So now the priority is, you guys want the priority to be get these other servers up and running and not the email?
They're already running.
I need the
We
email.
just want to verify
I did
that they're all
exchange
up to
server,
date.
maybe it's up. Like
He's saying-
CrowdStrike.
You're saying you want email, you're saying you want servers up.
Well, one comes after the other, I would assume.
We can't do
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Which
email
one comes
server
first? That's the
until we
question.
do the other servers. And all it is Andy verifying that they're patched.
Well, and if they're not, you need to patch. See, you have to understand,
Right.
you're assuming everything is
but-
perfect in the world. Everything we know is not perfect in the world because we wouldn't have this incident. So if we happens to look and see server number 1 is not fully patched, that could take a couple hours to fix, right? If, got to do reboots, got to verify work, got to make sure the servers are connecting and talking, and then you start bringing them up one at a time. You've got 4 more servers to do that with. We got to just take this one at a time and do it.
Right.
I agree.
So I'm not gonna say it's gonna take them 15 minutes and then it takes them 2 days and we're all complaining about it. It's gonna take what it takes and we're gonna do it right. And we're not gonna put outdated servers on anybody's network. Does not make sense.
Okay, we good? We adjourn?
So that's the plan. The plan is servers first, email second. Is that okay with you, Steve?
I'm not sure makes any difference what I think, but yeah, if that has to happen to be allowed to be.
Well, the reason I'm
impacted
asking is
with the
because you
system.
said you wanted email first.
God, please, please.
Okay. That's what you said to
I
me.
mean, the motion said email, right?
Yeah, the motion is for email.
Okay, that's what we're doing. We're doing email. Anything else? Okay, because it was a lunch meeting, I did get pizzas, so there's pizza in the next room. Anyone can partake in that. It's Tim's birthday.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Tim.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This has been awesome, everybody.
So what are we doing?
Seriously though, you gotta eat that. Yes, it's pizza. It's a
Can
lot.
I get a formal motion to adjourn?
Yeah, we need a motion.
Yeah, he made,
So let's do that.
no, the sheriff said where it's a lunch meeting, there better be food, so.
So we have to follow the law.
Hey, Andy, when you get a second, let's talk about the servers.
Yeah, here's the thing, Andy doesn't do servers.
Yeah, I don't actually.
Yeah, I know, but he's got to light it, and I don't want him to
Doesn't-
light it.
Doesn't Kenner do the service?
No, Rob does. Rob's not in there. So Rob's on vacation. Here's what I don't like.